Hi friends, and welcome back to MV Stories. Today we'll look at a few Reddit stories, and if you like them, you can like, comment, and turn on notifications so you don't miss new videos. Today's story comes from the the A-hole subreddit. It was posted by Throrno Warehouse and was titled, "Am I the a-hole for not wanting to buy a house 3 hours away from my workplace?" I don't know how to start this. I, 27 female, have been with my fiancé, 28 male, for 5 years. We've just recently saved enough for a deposit on a house, and he's found this cottage in the middle of nowhere 2 hours away from where we currently live. The thing is that I already work an hour away. I am a nursery practitioner, and I love my workplace. I've been there since I was 20, and I've worked my way up to a room lead position. Living 3 hours away from my job would not be ideal, but my fiancé won't budge on this house. He says it's perfect within our budget and quirky enough to fit our tastes and home style. I've tried to communicate with him about this issue multiple times, bringing up the fact there's not even any nurseries in that area that are looking for staff, and I don't want to find another job at a bit further out but start from the bottom again. He says it'll all work out if I just stop overthinking it, and I've been at my current job for so long that it would be nice for me to start fresh. Another issue is that I want children. They've always been a huge deal breaker for me, and I don't think it would be such a good idea to live so remotely when it comes to children, as we will have to get them from school or nursery before and after work every day. The nearest school/nursery is a 30-minute drive away from the house he wants, and we both start work fairly early and finish quite late. It will also be an issue of their freedom as they grow up, because I think it would be horrible to have to rely on your parent for transportation all the time and have to skip out on plans if they can't drive you. He really thinks I'm being dramatic about this, and I'll just figure it out. So am I the a-hole for not wanting to move so far away from my job and basically all civilization? Relevant comments. Commenter 1 says, "Not the a-hole. Y'all didn't talk about where you wanted to live? You both should have discussed where exactly you wanted a home. You don't have to move where you don't want to live." Opie replied, "We did discuss it. We both want a nice cottage that's out of the way of lots of people, but there's options near us, and even more options that are actually closer to my job, that also still have access to regular buses, and there's even a few up for sale in a town with a train station a reasonable walk away. I don't know why he's suddenly so set on this house that's so far out when we have plenty of options available to us that won't move us hours away." Commenter 2 says, "Not the a-hole. You two are not on the same page. You need to sort that out before you get married." Opie replied, "I'm desperately trying to sort it out. I'm considering telling him that I will end the engagement if he continues to be unreasonable and doesn't consider my feelings on the matter." Commenter 3 says, "Not the a-hole. If you have joined the funds, immediately remove your contributions from the account and safeguard the money. He absolutely will use all of it to buy the cottage. His plan is to isolate you and keep you away from your network of people." Opie replied, "Luckily, I control our finances because I'm better with numbers, so I've already transferred my half of the savings into a different account. He won't even notice. He's usually very sweet and considerate, so I'm not sure what's got into him about this house. He loves my family, and we have the same friend group as we've known each other since high school, so I don't think he's trying to isolate me." Commenter 4 says, "Is the house also 3 hours away from his workplace? Or does he work from home?" Opie replied, "He works in tech, and he does go physically to work, but has the opportunity to work from home if he wants to. He says because it's worked out for him, it'll work out for me too, and I can always just find another job in nursery. But I don't think he gets quite how difficult it is to find a genuinely good job in a great nursery that doesn't have a toxic environment and crazy high staff turnover." Commenter 5 says, "Who exactly is the we who received the money for the deposit? Who did the money come from? If it came from somebody in his family, he is probably being very proprietary about how the money is spent. That isn't a partnership, and this kind of thinking will spill over into other areas of their life. If the money came from someone in your family, or if it is somehow attached to your career, like a bonus, then he's a dictator who will force his ideas on you time and again. Buying a house is a partnership. He will expect you to help pay your portion of the mortgage and the upkeep, but you don't get to say in where the house is located. Is that what you want?" Not the a-hole. Opie replied, "We've been saving for a while. Nobody gave us any money. I was already saving before we got together. So was he, and after a couple years together, we decided to pool our house savings for our future, which I now realize was probably a really dumb idea because we aren't married. I've actually put more in than him despite spending less because I'm happy to live a frugal lifestyle while he likes holidays and expensive cars, etc. Update 1. I wasn't expecting to be able to update this fast, but here we are. First off, I want to thank everyone that commented on my last post and also add some context as I realized my last post may have been lacking some. Fiancé and I have been together 5 years, but I have known him for 12 years. And in all the time I've known him, and especially since we got together, he's always been sweet, taken my feelings into consideration, and hasn't actively ignored my opinion like this. It's always been a 2 yes, 1 no situation in decisions before this. We had a good relationship otherwise. We had date nights once a fortnight. We enjoyed each other's company, had aligning plans for the future, and the same ideals for a relationship. He had watched me go through a few quite bad relationships over the years before we got together and did his best to be the opposite of my exes, though he's always been quite pushy when it comes to sexual intimacy. So I guess that's an issue. But other than that, it was great, and we had actually had a lot of talks about what we want in the house. We had agreed that we wanted a house or cottage either the same distance away or closer to my work, a bit more remote, but still with a town or city easily accessible by public transport and car. I'm not sure why he suddenly switched to wanting a house so far out from everything and everyone we both know. We live in the UK, and a 2-hour drive can have you in basically a whole other world. Anyway, the actual update. I had annual leave from work yesterday, and my now ex-fiancé was having a work from home day, something he's been doing more and more frequently as of late. This is another reason he is so okay with the house he wants being where it is, because he can just switch to full-time work from home. In the morning, I sat down with him and tried to bring up the house. I laid out my points from my last post yet again and told him I'm under no circumstances leaving my job. I love it, and I do not want to search for another. I brought up the countless other houses that fit our criteria that are in our area and closer to my work, some of which we have viewed. We haven't viewed the place he wants yet, as we haven't had the time, and I told him I do not want as I already know it's not what I want. I also asked him if he really thinks it would be okay for me to have a 6-hour round commute every day, especially considering my shift starts at 8 a.m., so I would have to leave by 5 a.m. every morning and be up by around 4 a.m. My shifts typically finish at 5:30 p.m., so I wouldn't even be back home until 8:30 p.m. Would he be okay with doing all the childcare in the future, housework, and just everything that needed to be done because I would not be home for any of it? He didn't seem to take any of it to heart and still insisted I could find another job, maybe one not even in childcare. And that's what finally pushed me over the edge. Childcare has been my dream since I was a little girl, and I managed to find an absolute dream of a workplace that I know many childcare practitioners would kill to work for. How could I possibly leave that all behind when I've worked so hard for it? He told me he's set on this house, so either I accept it or I leave. I chose leave. I gave his ring back and told him we're done, that he's not being the sweet, considerate man I fell in love with, and I don't know why he can't see my side of things in this. I did not want to live a life with somebody that doesn't consider how I feel in all of this. This completely shocked him, and he started begging me to rethink that we can figure something out, but I refused and went to pack my things. I'm staying with my brother and his wife now, which is nice because they live closer to my workplace, a 30-minute drive instead of an hour, and I get to spend time with my little nieces. I am hurting, but I also feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I do not deserve to not have my opinion valued, and he certainly did not. I guess it's onwards and upwards, as they say, but I definitely won't be dating for a long time after this. Relevant comments. Commenter 1 says, you mentioned that the two of you had saved up enough for a down payment. If the money is in a joint account, add up how much you contributed plus interest on the amount and withdraw it fast. Hope replied, hello. Sorry for my absence. I've been very busy. I withdrew all money that I contributed from the shared balance before I left my ex-fiancé. It's all safe in my own bank account now. Commenter 2 says he didn't even give up. We can figure something out means his option is still on the table. He just wants to keep debating even after you dumped him. Man, he really wants that house. Commenter 3 says, "Oh damn. He thought he could strong-arm you into agreeing with him. He thought you would relent because you were engaged and you'd never walk away. And then you called his bluff, and he realized he didn't hold the control over you he thought. Good on you for calling his bluff and being rid of him. He would have 100% used that tactic again and again if you had stayed with him." Commenter 4 says, "Not the a-hole, and good job advocating for yourself. If current you starts to waver, which is a totally normal emotional cycle for people to go through post-breakup, just remember that future you will be so glad that you stood up for yourself and made space for better relationships to come." Update 2. First off, I, 27 female, want to share some things about my life and how it has been since I left my ex-fiancé, 28 male. Life has been up and down for me. I found a therapist, and I've started to rent a small flat close to my brother's house, still living below my means as I start to save for a house again, building upon my more than half of the savings I took when I left my ex. It was all my money. I had saved most of it. I did not take any of the money that was his. The flat is small, but it's cozy and doesn't have any of the mess my ex always left around. I was offered a position as assistant manager at my workplace, and while the pay rise would have been nice, I decided to turn it down as I just so love working with the children, and I do not want to spend most of my time in office. Being a room lead is fine with me. I adore my job. My workplace is still great, and I've made some really good friends with some newer staff members. I often have a couple of them over for drinks or dinner after work as a little single ladies club. My absolutely amazing dad died suddenly and tragically in September, far too soon at 65. He was truly the most incredible man, and I've been leaning on him a lot for support after I left my ex. He left me a sizable sum of money, and while I'm still waiting for that to come through, I'm planning to put all into my house fund, and I'm hoping to be a homeowner by the summer of 2026. I also adopted a little tortoiseshell cat to keep me company. Her name is Lily, and she's the sweetest, cuddliest thing. I'm slowly getting back into dating, and I actually made the realization that I like women. So I've been dipping my toes into going on dates with some lovely ladies, which has been great. Nothing serious, of course. I'm not ready for that yet. But it's nice to have some connection with people and explore my newfound dating pool, see what fits me best, and figure out my dating boundaries. Overall, while sometimes have been tough and heartbreaking, my life has improved. On the ex front, I really did dodge a bullet. My sister has told me countless times that I let a man disrespect me for far too long. He was not the man I thought he was, and upon reflection, I realized the first red flag was how pushy he was for sex. I believe one comment on my last update called him a sex fiend. My therapist has helped me to realize that coercion was not consent, so I've been working through that. Since we split, he has apparently been posting on Instagram about being an alpha male and how any woman would be lucky to have him. According to mutual friends, he has been listening to lots of horrible and misogynistic podcasts and spews that rhetoric to absolutely everyone he can. And he's already dating a new girl who is far from appropriately younger than him at 19. Yuck. I will never know the full logic of why he wanted me to move so far from everything I know and love, but I feel that the comments saying he wanted me to quit my job and be a stay-at-home mom were correct in their assumptions. He couldn't afford the house he wanted without my part of the savings, so he's stuck in our old flat. I had to see him once more after I left just to get the rest of my things from our old place, and he tried to talk to me, asking if we could fix what we had, but I ignored him and simply took everything I needed before leaving and blocking him for good. He's not worth my time or energy. I think during our relationship, I lost who I really was and forgot that I am a strong and independent woman. I have always been quite feisty, and I've always stood up for myself, but somehow with him, I lost those parts of me. They're back in full force now, and I couldn't be happier with that. I've used my found-again spine to fight for what I believe in, and I've been to several marches and protests for Palestine in the last few months, screaming at the top of my lungs, holding banners and waving flags. I have advocated for children's rights, I have joined clubs and groups, and I have found my voice. Thank you all for your kind words, advice, and encouragement. I don't think I would have left or stayed away if it wasn't for all of you commenting. Relevant comments. Commenter 1 says, 19. Poor girl. Hope you replied. I really want to message her and let her know what he's like, but my sister and friends have told me it would cause more problems for me. She's so young, and I'm afraid for her. Commenter 2 says, I agree with your sister, you dodged a bullet. Go have a great life now that you have found yourself again. Commenter 3 says, yes. You go do what you want from now on. Sad about dad, but awesome otherwise. Update 3. I, 28 female, don't have much to update apart from, as of the 21st of May, I am officially a homeowner. I found a perfect house that's only 15 minutes from my workplace. It may not be the out-of-the-way cottage I wanted, but it's perfect and it's all mine. I have space to just be me and enough room for my nibblings to sleep over and give my siblings a break. On the dating front, I've been dating a wonderful woman, 30 female, since late December. I realized shortly after my last update that I wasn't bisexual and I'm actually fully a lesbian. We're still taking it very slow, considering I had just come out of a long-term relationship, and she was only recently divorced when we met, but so far so good. She's absolutely amazing, and I can safely say I love her. If things go well, we've talked about living together, but that won't happen until at least 2027, as I'm not quite ready for that level of commitment yet. She's helped me move in and decorate my new house, though, which has been lovely as she works in interior design and seems to know exactly how to make a room look incredible. My ex broke up with the 19-year-old in April, for what I've been told, citing that she's far too immature. Like, obviously, she's 19 and you're 29, idiot. I haven't heard much else about him because I really don't care to know about his life, but what I have heard isn't great. On top of his stupid misogynist stuff, he's also been on some horribly racist bullshit. I didn't mention this in my post because it didn't feel relevant, but I am mixed. My mom is black, and I am very clearly half black. He was engaged to a woman of color, and he's racist. All in all, life is good, and I escaped a man that probably never really loved me. I hope everyone has had a great year so far. Here's to better beginnings. It may not be much of an update, but I want to let you all know it can get so much better. My opinion. I get why he loved the idea of that cottage, but I can't side with him here. A house is supposed to work for both people, not just look cute on paper. She wasn't rejecting the dream completely. She was trying to be realistic about her job, future kids, travel time, and daily life. And instead of actually listening, he kept acting like she was overthinking it. That would scare me too. I don't think every bad decision means someone is evil, but refusing to care how your partner's life will be affected is a huge problem. In the end, I think she made the right choice by choosing herself. The second short story is from Am I the A-Hole subreddit. It was posted by Direct Caterpillar 77 and was titled, Would I be the asshole if I didn't invite my dad's wife to my high school graduation? Notice how I said my dad's wife and not my stepmom. I don't see her in that capacity at all. My 18 male parents had a rough divorce, and my dad immediately moved on and got married to his former high school girlfriend before my mom. So my dad's wife was someone who was forced into my life without me wanting her in it. She doesn't have kids, so she's always clingy and trying to make it seem like me and my sister are her kids, and we're this one happy big family. Imo, excuse my language, she is emotionally and socially a dumbass. She just doesn't know how to act. Once when they first got married, they had to get together, and me and the kids were apparently making lots of noise, so she took us to a room and locked us in. She was inside with us. She refused to let us out unless we vowed to not make any more noise. We were 6 and 7. Would love to add the fact that I got a lot of shit for that because she was just joking and I don't know how to take a joke. She just doesn't know how to act. This is going to sound crazy, but I actually love her mother, my dad's mother-in-law. She stood by my side during a lot of problems and has called out her daughter's behavior. Now my graduation is coming up. My mom thinks I need to invite her because I have previously stayed over at her vacation home, in addition to the fact that she doesn't have kids, and I am the closest thing she'll ever have to kids. Now, she and my dad were very horrible to me in their first year of marriage. So personally, I've never liked her and still kind of resent my dad for the way things went. I don't have enough tickets to invite her anyway, in addition to the fact that even if I did, I want to invite people that in a way or another raised me or helped my parents raise me. Those include my grandparents and my aunt and uncle, who one of which doesn't have a kid, and I'm the actual closest thing he'll ever have to a kid, in addition to the fact that I share a last name with him. My mom thinks it's going to be very awkward for my dad to leave the house to go to my grad, and for her to ask him and for him to reply and say my name's Grad. I think it's insanely inappropriate for her to be there. My mom is trying to avoid problems with my dad. But what business does she have being at the same event concerning me with my mom and grandma? Personally, I don't care about what people will think. I care about my happiness and the fact that I don't want her there. I feel like I shouldn't need to justify this to anyone, and it's my decision. I probably need to get over a lot of the things that happened in the past, but that's an issue for another day. Inviting her won't change that. Just to add, if I wanted to invite her, I'd have to sacrifice inviting one of my aunts/uncles, which I'm not doing, and I'd rather not have a graduation than invite her. Also, I wasn't invited to their wedding. Relevant comments. Glittering Paper 4516 says, just invite him. Hey Dad, tickets were extremely limited. I'm sure you and wife will understand. Looking forward to seeing you. If he makes a fuss, says he won't come, I'm really disappointed to hear that, Dad. This isn't personal, it's logistics. Oprah replied, that's a good idea. Thank you. Okay Tonight 3703 says, not the a-hole. It's your decision, not your mother's. She locked in a room when you were a child and nobody thought that was fucking unhinged? My mom thinks I need to invite her because I have previously stayed over at her vacation home, in addition to the fact that she doesn't have kids and I am the closest thing she'll ever have to kids. So fucking what? You are not her child and she did a shit job of trying to connect with you when you were UG. Locking you a room with her is not the way to bond with a child. Stop discussing this with your mother. Invite who you want. Don't jade, justify, argue, defend, or explain. Give out the invites. If your father chooses not to come, oh well. Sounds like he was a good dad anyway. Congratulations on your graduation. Oprah replied, they thought it was a funny joke and that I can't take a joke. Exactly. Thank you. Again, thank you. Leading Summer 4724 says, not the a-hole. As a stepmom myself, and as someone who had my own family bork out over who got to come to my graduation, this is your day. You invite who you want to be there, period. That said, it's best to manage your dad's expectations prior to the big day, and do your best to not put your mom in the middle of the conversation. I only say this because she seemed to be concerned about avoiding problems with your dad, and that may be because she expects the social backlash to fall on her. Make it clear to your dad that this is your choice, and he shouldn't try to go to your mom and make her uncomfortable with the idea she will change her mind. Oprah replied, I told my mother that this wasn't her battle to fight and that he had nothing to do with it, and that I'd handle it all. Thanks for your comment. Not Hoyathink says, not the a-hole. This is your graduation. And like you said, there aren't even enough tickets to begin with. Do not cave, and do not let them guilt you into this. I have a similar family dynamic as you. I'm 30 now, and my dad married a textbook narcissistic nightmare of a woman who treated me, my sister, and my brother horribly while treating her own 2 kids as if they shit rainbows. When we tried to talk to my dad about her and the horrible things she did to us, he refused, and honestly still refuses, to acknowledge that he was emotionally absent and left his biological kids to deal with someone who was genuinely toxic. He hid behind the provider role since it was easier for him than facing his own trauma and actually being emotionally present for the kids who needed him. To this day, he still downplays/flat out denies a lot of what happened. So my relationship with him is very surface level now. I only talk to him occasionally just to make sure he's okay, because I know I'd feel guilty if something happened, like him dying, and we never spoke again. I finally stood my ground and called him out when I was around 25, and I honestly wish I had done it sooner. You are allowed to protect your peace and set boundaries. Even with family, do not wait to do so like I did. Oprah replied, thank you so much for your advice. It really means a lot. Look, I've always been confrontational and attempted to stand my ground since I was a kid, but I was weak. I was a child, I lacked the vocabulary needed in order to defend myself. But now I'm not weak, so now I'm standing my ground. Cat Jarman's Pants says, easy decision, hard conversation. You simply need to have a conversation with your dad, one-on-one, and say that now you're an adult, you want to have a grown-up relationship with him. That he needs to understand that you don't see his wife as stepmother/family figure, and the pair of you don't get on. See how diplomatic I'm being here? That you accept that for him, this conversation will be difficult, but that he needs to understand that she won't be part of your life. You'll be pleasant, friendly, etc. But you're not going to withhold an invitation to your graduation from someone you really want to attend, whatever their relationship to you, in order to give one to her. Add in a lie that if you had an unlimited supply of invitations, you'd give her one, but you don't. You may know it's a lie, but it's about softening the blow. You're going to face the rocky truth that he may decide not to attend without his wife, and that will be a pattern throughout life, birthdays, weddings, children's parties, etc. You can then decide that you're fine with that, or not. Not the a-hole. But this isn't a one-time thing. In becoming an adult, you get to make decisions about your life, but you also get to keep the consequences. Oprah replied, yes, definitely, the diplomacy/message delivery is the most important thing in this situation. Exactly, I understand that my potential decision could have consequences, but I'm fine and at peace with my decision. Update. When I wrote the post, I wrote it as a hypothetical scenario. Despite my mom and brother's warnings, I thought my dad wasn't going to ask me to invite his wife. Boy, was I wrong. After I wrote the post, I went to my mom and I told her that there will not be a graduation if his wife comes. I then listed a bunch of shit she did over the past few months. Oldest was November 2025, and my mom was shocked. One of those things was her trying to turn my dad against me because I don't tell him my school grades. The reason I don't is because he goes and runs to her and tells her everything. My mom sided with me, ultimately. 2 weeks after the post, I was in the supermarket with my dad, and he told me to do a favor for him. Invite your stepmom. Initially, I told him I wished I could, but there wasn't enough tickets. He then told me no problem. I'll call his uncle and tell him to not come. He was really willing to not have his brother come just to appease his wife. I told him no, there's not enough tickets, and that it'd be very inappropriate for her to be there with my grandma and mother attending. He told me that I'd be making him a huge problem and that he might not be able to come. So I told him, good riddance, now you're making it so I could be able to invite my friends who weren't going to be able to come. Then he secretly went to my brother and started getting mad at his wife, saying that she's causing him problems and he's sick of her and whatnot. After I got home, he started talking badly about my mom and her family, saying that he's paying for the tickets, $200, and that they're coming on his pay. He then started insulting my mother's brother and my grandma, saying how they're coming on his pay and how he doesn't like them. So I immediately went to the bathroom and messaged my mom to pay the tickets, to which she did, to which he was at shock. Then he started saying how upset his wife would be and whatnot. I told him it's your job as your husband to tell her when you can't get something done for her. Not everything she asks is going to be possible, especially at my expense. He then started breaking and told me that his wife came to him and said, why did myself not invite Mai to his graduation when I want to make a large family gathering to celebrate him? I told him, then you're making a very big deal of nothing. She just asked a question. You could have said there's not enough tickets. You didn't need to talk to me about any of this. I then told him that he'd better tell his wife that whatever gathering she makes, I'm not attending. Anyway, a couple of days later was my senior trip. So on the day before I called him and told him that just to get the facts straight, I don't want your wife there. It's not my mom or grandma. It's the fact that I don't want her. He was kind of shocked at that, but then I was boarding the plane, so I had to hung up. I haven't seen his wife really since a couple of days before the original post. I saw her briefly in a funeral 2 weeks ago, to which I was very cold and distant. Going on, I'm not going to their house, and I'll be cutting contact with her completely. Yesterday was my graduation, and his wife didn't attend, but my dad came. It was a lovely day where I was surrounded by people who love and respect me, not people who try to force themselves into my life. My opinion, I think he handled this pretty fairly. It's his graduation, and he had limited tickets, so it makes sense that he wanted people there who actually supported and raised him. I don't think his dad's wife is automatically entitled to a ticket just because she married his dad or wanted a family moment. At the same time, I get why this was uncomfortable for everyone, because blended families can be messy. But the dad made it worse by pressuring him instead of respecting a clear boundary. To me, this wasn't about being cruel. It was about not pretending a relationship exists when it doesn't.